Started the recording. So the most important thing while training your classifier is you should not train your classifier on complete data, because if you will train classifier on complete data, then you cannot test it. And if you will train and test it on complete data, then it is not a good scenario, and you cannot use that classifier in real world. So what is the best idea? The best idea is divide your data into two parts, train part and test part. Train your classifier using train part and evaluate your classifier using test part. So for that you use train test split method available in sklearn. So first we need to import that from sklearn.model_selection, from sklearn.model_selection. So we'll be importing train test split. And second thing, okay, the data is available in CSV file, so we need to read the data. For that we need to import, we will use pandas library, import pandas as PD. So in today's session we will be using a simpler data set which you are already familiar with, and it must be available with you, and that is iris data set. So let's read that file. Df is equal to pd dot read underscore CSV, and in this we'll specify the name of CSV file, iris.csv. And now if I'll print this data, print df, the data is available over here. It says there are 150 rows and 5 columns. So the columns are sepal length, sepal width, petal length and petal width, and the class is species. So what species of iris it is, whether it is a Sentosa or Virginica or versicolor. So so this is a classification problem, that we are supposed to classify the species of a flower using these 4 values, that is a sepal length, sepal width, petal length and petal width of a flower. I guess this data set is available with you. Am I right, class? We used this data set earlier during pandas and all other sessions. Okay, thank you, Shubham. It's available with you. Good. So today we will use this data set. So this is a data frame. So, but for training our machine learning model, we cannot directly pass the data frame. We need a ND array. So how to get an ND array from data frame? It's simple. We can simply say use a statement data is equal to df dot values. So the moment we'll use df dot values, it will return the data frame. It will convert the data frame into NumPy array and it will return it, and it will be stored in data object. So let us print first data dot shape. So it's perfectly fine. So there are 150 rows and there are 5 columns. And now let us try to print this data. And yes, it is available in this form without any issue. So it's good. So now we have a data. These are 4 rows which are features, and the last column, sorry, these first 4 columns are features and last column is a class that we want to do. So the first thing that we should do is we are supposed to segregate data and class level separately. We are supposed to segregate data and class level. So this is called as X part, and class level is called as Y part. So X part means the entire data. This entire 4 columns we are supposed to separate. This will be considered as X part, and this class labels will be considered as a Y part, that is class labels. So we know first 4 columns are data, and the last column is a, sorry, first 4 columns are X part, and the last column is a Y part. So and if we will use data dot shape returns a this value. This is a list or a tuple. It's a tuple. So in this data dot shape returns a tuple. In this tuple, 0th column is the number of rows, and first column is number of columns. So we can use this thing to separate X is equal to data of, we want all the rows, but we want only first 4 columns, that is column number 0, 1, 2 and 3. So we'll specify 0 colon means colon comma means we want all the rows, After that, we are going for column. So I want column starting from 0 up to data dot shape of 1. It will give you number of columns, but I don't want last column. So we'll go with -1. Since I don't want last column, I will go with -1. It will return all the rows, but only 4 columns: column 0, column 1, column 2, and column 3. Let us check this thing. Print x dot shape, and we'll print x. So see, now there are 150 rows and there are 4 columns, and only 4 columns are there here every row. So this is a x that we got, and similarly we want a y part. So it is simply like this only. We want all the rows, but we want only last column. So since we want only last column, we'll go with data dot shape of 1. But we know that Python is a zero based programming language, so indexing starts from 0, and number shape is 5, means it is there are only 4 columns: column 0, column, sorry, there are 5 columns: column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. So if I write shape of 1, it will not work because there is no 5th column. There is 0th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th column. So we'll go with shape of 1 -1. And now if we'll print y, it is something like this. This is our data and this is our y. That is a class level Sentosa. For first rows it is a Sentosa. First 50 rows it is Sentosa. Then for next 50 rows it is Versicolor, and last 50 rows it is a Virginica. So this segregation is done now. So we read the data, we read the CSV file in a data frame. From we converted this data frame into a NumPy array using df.values, and then now we know this is the entire data, but we want separate x part and y part. So we segregated x part and y part using this way. So we use all the rows, but in x part we want initial columns. So column number 0 up to second last column, and in y part we want all the rows but only last column, and we printed this to check whether it is properly segregated or not. So class, any doubt till now? So you understood how we are segregating the data into x part and y part? Okay, so this is basic pandas operations, or let's say NumPy operation, simple thing. So after this, the thing that you learn is how to we are supposed to split our data into 2 parts: training part and testing part. That's how it should be done. So it should be x underscore x comma train, x comma test, y comma train, and sorry, y underscore train and y underscore test. So we are dividing our x data, x part into two things: x train, this which we will use for training our classifier, and x test, which we will use for testing our classifier. Similarly, y will be divided into 2 parts: y train and y test, used for training and evaluating the classifier. And for that we'll use the method train underscore test underscore split. To this method we will pass x value, y value, and then we'll specify the test size. So test size means how much percentage of data we want for testing part. So let's say we are saying we want 40% of data for testing. So remaining 60% data will be used for training the classifier. And final thing is we can specify the random state, so that every time we will not get a different result when we run the data. So random state is optional, but yes, you can always use it. So the data is splitted, and now let us check how many records are there in training part and testing part. For that we can use x underscore train dot shape, and y under, sorry, not y, x underscore test dot shape. So earlier there were total 150 records, and we are going for 40% records for testing. Since we are using 40% records for testing, so 40% of 150 is a 60. So 60 records will be used for testing or evaluating our classifier, and 90 records will be used for training our classifier. And yes, number of features in during training and testing will remain same, that is 4. So now how to build the classifier? So building the classifier is simple. From sklearn dot linear underscore so model. So from linear underscore model, we are going to import logistic regression. Logistic regression. And now we create a model object. So we are so create a model object. For that we can, so you can simply it's like creating an object of logistic regression. So now this is a object is created, but the model is not yet trained. So for training the model, we use a method model dot fit, and to this we will pass x underscore train part and y underscore train part. So when we call this method y dot fit method, it basically does all the calculations required to build logistic regression. So basically when we call this method, it does all the numerical calculations internally and keep all the records ready that you can be used for predicting the record. So fit means what? Training the classifier, and training the classifier means what? Doing all the numerical processing required by logistic regression. And once it is run, we can check the model efficiency. For that we can use a method called score. Thank you, Jay sir, for correcting my mistake. So there was a typing mistake in logistic regression. So yes, now in previous session you used two methods. So one is called confusion matrix and another was classification report. There is one more method called score, which is used to check the classification accuracy of a machine learning model. So let us check what is the score. So score is equal to model dot score, and here we can pass x underscore test. We are passing it here x underscore test because we are checking the evaluation. We are taking, we want to evaluate the classifier, so we are passing the test. We are passing the test part. So x underscore test and y underscore test, and let's print the score. So the score is 91.66. So the score is 91.66. How the score is calculated? Score is calculated something like this. Score is equal to number of correctly classified records divided by total number of testing records. So it is like how many records are correctly classified divided by how many records were used for testing, or how many records were used for calculating the score. So let's say you have 60 records for testing, and out of those 60 records only 50 records were correctly classified. So your score will be 50 divided by 60. Your score will be 50 divided by 60. That is something like this. Score is equal to 50 divided by 60, and let us print the score. So in that case, score is 83. But this score is in a range of 0 to 1. So this score is in a range of 0 to 1. But what we want percentage. How many percent of records is correctly classified? So if we want this, what we can do? We can simply multiply it by 100. And now we can see 83.33% records are correctly classified. So what is the score? Score simply means number of records that is correctly classified upon total number of records used for testing. So here we'll multiply our score by 100, and now we can say that 91.66% records are correctly classified, or we can say 91.67% records are correctly classified. So this is our testing accuracy that we can check with the help of score method. And the other methods that we used in previous sessions were confusion matrix and classification reports. So it was something like this, from sklearn dot metric will import, let's say, confusion matrix, confusion underscore, will import confusion underscore matrix, and then we'll go for prediction. So here it's different than prediction score. Here we'll use model dot predict method, and to which we'll pass x underscore test. So we are asking now model to give a prediction for records which are available in x underscore test object, or let's say x underscore test part in testing part, and we are asking for predictions. And now we are comparing these predictions with actual results. We are comparing these predictions with actual results. So for comparing, we can use confusion matrix object, or say confusion matrix method. So let us say confusion matrix CF is equal to confusion underscore matrix, to which we'll pass, okay, these are the predictions and these are the actual values, y underscore test, and let us print this confusion matrix. Typing mistake, prediction. So it says that, okay, for class 0 or say first class, 16 records are correctly classified, but for this thing there is a mistake. 22 records which belongs to class 1 are predicted as class 1, but 4 records were mistakenly classified or predicted to class 2. Same thing happened with this 3 also. 17 records of class 2 was properly classified as class 2, but 1 record was wrongly classified. So out of total 60 records, this 1 is wrongly classified and this 4 is a count of wrongly classified records. So out of out of 60, 55 records were correctly classified. So our accuracy is 91.67%. The accuracy is 91.67%. So this is something that you discussed in previous session for logistic regression. Now let us, now you can observe here the accuracy is 91.67%. Accuracy is 91.61%. So which we get when we are using all 4 features. And in this case, there were number of features were less. Number of features were less means there are only 4 features. But if you go to real-time scenarios, then many times number of features are in hundreds, like 100 feature, 200 features. Sometimes features are 300 or 400 also. So when there are so many features, and with so many features, training your model is very difficult. You require more processing power, you require more memory also, and many other things. And sometimes features are relevant, sometimes features are irrelevant also. So now let us let us not go into the area of relevant features and irrelevant features. Just stick to the point that there are huge number of features. There are hundreds of features, and training a model with hundreds of features require more memory and more processing power, which is computationally very expensive. So the basic idea is, why to go with all number of features? Why to go with all number of features? Let us reduce the number of features. Let us reduce the number of features and focus on more important features. Focus on more important features. For example, let us say lockdown is over and your exams are also over, and now you are free to roam here and there. It's like now it's complete India is safe. There is no COVID patients and so on. And now let's say you want to go out for a, let's say outing for 5 days, something like that, after your exams. Then what will be your important criteria, or what will be your most important criteria? The most important criteria that you should consider about is like what is the traveling distance, traveling time, what is the food expense, what is the living expense, and what will be the quality of a hotel. So these are 5 important features. But will you take into consideration like, okay, मैट्रिक्स का क्वालिटी क्या है, वहाँ पे जो बेड है उसका जो मैट है उसका क्वालिटी क्या रहेगा, शॉवर का क्वालिटी क्या रहेगा, पानी का क्वालिटी क्या रहेगा, रोड का क्वालिटी कैसा है, पोल्यूशन क्वालिटी कैसा है, and there are a number of things that you can consider, but which are most important things. तुम लोगों को नहीं किसी ने बोला कि ठीक है गोवा इज गुड, बट वहाँ पे उस टाइम पे पोल्यूशन लेवल थोड़ा ज़्यादा रहेगा, विल यू कंसिडर? बोलेंगे बाहर में जाओ, आई वांट टू गो टू गोवा बिकॉज इट इज़ इन माई बजट विद ऑल अदर थिंग्स एंड काइंड ऑफ थिंग. तुमको किसी ने बोला सिंगापुर बेस्ट प्लेस है, but is it in your budget? What is about traveling time and so on? So what is the most important feature? Budget. Then second important feature is traveling time. Someone will tell you, okay, Nepal is in budget, but what is the traveling time and all other things? So second important feature is the time required to go there and come back and so on. So even though there are a number of features or there are a number of things, you will consider only most important 5 or 6 things. Out of 20 things, you can consider only 5 or 6 things like budget, your budget, traveling time, hotel quality, and then the rating given to that area by tourists and so on. You'll consider only 5 or 6. So similarly, why to use all hundreds of features when you can focus on only certain limited set of features? And when these concepts come into the thought, so the very basic thing in maths that was available at that time, that was a principal component analysis. Principal component analysis, PCA, is the first widely used method. Nowadays PCA is not that widely used, but yes, still people are using it to some extent, but it is one of the most widely used first method of reducing the dimensionality. Reducing the dimensionality means what? Instead of using all features, select only few features. Instead of using all features, select only few features. This is called as a reducing the dimensionality. So principal component analysis is first most important method. First, let us see the code for principal component analysis, and then we will see how we can how actually principal component analysis internally works. How actually principal component analysis internally works. Class, any doubt in this concept? Why dimensionality reduction is required in day-to-day life? Okay, so we know that dimensionality reduction is required to save the processing time period and processing memory requirement. So with this thing, let us go how PCA can be implemented in first sklearn, and then we'll see the actual internal working of a principal component analysis. So again, there is a ready-made method for PCA from let's say from sklearn dot decomposition. We are going to import PCA, that is principal component analysis. Let's create the object of PCA. PCA is equal to PCA, and here we are telling them how many features we are interested in. How many features we are interested in. So let's say the number of features that we are interested in is 2. So we'll specify n underscore components is equal to 2. It means what? We want only 2 most important features. We want only 2 most important features from available features. So now there are 4 features available, and we are telling them that okay, we want only 2 most important features. So now it's simple, PCA dot fit, and to this we will pass x underscore train. So the moment we'll pass fit to x underscore train, what it will do? It will do all the calculations of PCA internally, and it will identify 2 most important components. It will do all calculations required for principal component analysis internally, and it will identify 2 most important features. And once it is done, now it has only identified. It has only identified. Now we have to select only those 2 important features from training part. So when we call this method fit, it will apply principal component analysis calculations on extend data, and will select, okay, these are 2 important features, or it will identify, basically it will identify 2 important features because we have specified here 2, and now we have to extract only those 2 features. We have to extract only those 2 important features. So for that we can use a method PCA.transform. PCA.transform and we are receiving the selected features in x underscore, let's say train underscore selected. So x underscore train underscore selected will contain only selected features from Xtrain data. So let us check the shape of Xtrain selected, X underscore train underscore selected dot shape. Now see, there are 90 records which were there, right, but number of features are now 2 instead of 4 because we have mentioned over here 2. So instead of 2, if we'll specify 3, it will select 3 most important features. If we'll mention 1, it will select 1 most important feature and so on. So it's up to us how many features we want to specify over here. So basically what we are doing, so it's a two-step process. First, use a fit method on PCA, and to fit method we are supposed to pass X underscore train. So now it will do all the calculations required for principal component analysis, and it will identify which are 2 most important components or which are 2 most important features. And when we will call a transform method, and to that method, if we'll so when we will call transform method, and to that method if we'll pass X underscore train, it will return only those selected features from training part. It will select only those selected features from training part. And same transformation we are supposed to apply it on training data. Same transformation we are supposed to apply it on testing data. So it will be X underscore test underscore selected is equal to PCA dot transform, and to which we are going to pass X underscore test. And now let us check the dimensionality of X test selected. So dimensionality of X test selected is 60 rows and 2 columns. So it is 60 rows and 2 columns. So it's done. It's not that difficult. So basically see, in machine learning, the very basic thing is you are supposed to apply all the transformation on testing data that you have applied on training data. So the transformations on training data and the transformation of testing data must be exactly same. You cannot do something like this, that I'm applying different transformation on training data and different transformations on testing data. It is not done. Imagine I am teaching you something in a class and I'm asking you something else in a test. Is it okay? No. Then you will say it is out of syllabus. How it can be done? It cannot be accepted. Why? Because training part and testing part is different. So if you are learning something and I'm testing you on something else, is it okay? No, it's not okay. This is not logical. Similarly, if I'm building a model, and while building the model, if I'm doing some transformation on training data, I'm supposed to apply exactly same transformation on testing data. That's how it is done. Any doubt class till now? So that's why we used here, we applied PC.transform on training as well as testing over here. Any doubt class? Okay, clear. Thank you, Ashwini. So Aaron is typing something. Sir, the current went. Could you explain the theory behind PCA? Aaron, yes, I'm going to explain the theory behind PCA just now. See, the theory behind the PCA or the concept behind the PCA, basic concept is we should use only most important feature or most relevant features, because when you have hundreds of features, why to use all hundreds of features? Use only most important features. So how PCA work? So PCA, it's a 4-step process. So in step 1, we scale the data. We scale the data so that all the features get important weightage or same importance, so that all the features should get same importance. So what do you mean by getting same importance? See here, we have printed data over here. Am I right? So this is the data available in our iris file. So you can see the first column having higher values, second column having less higher values, third column smaller, and fourth column is having minimum values. So if I'll apply some mathematical operation on this data, then what will happen? The simple thing that is going to happen is first column will dominate every other column, especially column number 2 and especially column number 3 and column number 4. These two columns will be dominated by first two columns easily because their values are higher as compared to these two values, because their values are higher as compared to these two values. So we have to avoid this. So that's why we are supposed to scale the values. For scaling the value, the obvious choice can be standardization. So anyone knows what is standardization? It's a basic mathematical operation. What is standardization? Standardization means what? Anyone knows it? What is standardization? Standardization means it's like we are calculating the average. We are calculating the average of a column. We'll calculate the average of a column. Let's say it's like a calculate average of column, and after that subtract this average from all values of column. So what is standardization? Standardization means what? Calculate the average of a column. So in that column, let's say there are 10 values. Calculate the average and then subtract the average from all the values. So if I am subtracting average from that value, all the values, मतलब क्या हो जाएगा? It means the values which are below average will become negative. The values which are below average will become negative, and the values which are above average will become positive. And if you will take the average of that column, average will become 0. So it's something like this. Let's say x is equal to np dot array. For that, first we need to import numpy as np. Let's say I want to create an array 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and now let's calculate the average of these values. So average is equal to x dot mean and print average. So average is 4. Am I right? So and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to subtract the average from value x, every value of x. So x is equal to x minus average. And now if I'll print x, see the values which are below average are negative and the value which are above average are positive. And the final step in standardization is now, so this is standardization. And now if you will take a summation, or let's say if you will take an average of entire column, it becomes 0. So if I'm taking now x dot mean, now you will see after standardization, before standardization, average of x was 0. Okay. So Shubham is saying, can you zoom the page? Okay, yes, Shubham, I can zoom the page. Shubham, is it okay now? Okay, thank you. So this was the array, but if you will see, this is the array, and the average of array was 4. But what we did, we calculate the average of an array and subtracted that average from every element. And the element becomes like this, means the elements which are less than average becomes negative elements. The elements which are above average becomes positive. And if I'll take the average of all the elements, it becomes 0. So this process is called as standardization. So this was x first. Let us check this for y. So y is equal to np dot array, and the values are, let's say 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17. Let's repeat the same process for y, but okay. So here we will calculate the average of y. I don't want to print the average. Then we'll subtract the average from every element of y. And now let us print y and y mean. So now if we'll do this thing, now you can check the values after standardization are same. So here earlier this column was having smaller values and this column y was having higher values. But after standardization, both the columns are having almost similar values without any change. Why? Though the initial value, smallest value of y is still a smallest value, and the largest value of y is still a largest value. Only there is a change in scale. Only there is some change in range, but it's okay. So this is called as standardization. This is called as standardization, where we are first calculating the average of a column, and from that column, from every element of that column, we are subtracting the average. And due to this, scale of data becomes almost same. So if you want, I'll change something: 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, and 107. Even after that also, things are same without any problem. So this is the first step in a standardization in principal component analysis, that you are scaling the data. But for scaling the data, standardization is not the only option. There are many ways for standard, or there are many other ways, like you can do normalization, you can do L1, you can take L1 norm, L2 norm. There are n number of methods available. You can use any method for standardization. Okay, here I was printing y mean. Okay, thanks Shubham for pointing out my mistake. Sorry, Aaron, for pointing out the mistake. But yes, the result is still same. Value doesn't change. So this is a standardization. So one can use standardization or normalization, and there are many types of normalization. Which normalization you want to use is up to you when you are implementing it. So the first step is scaling the data, so that even though different columns are having different ranges, doesn't matter, all columns will get the equal weightage. The second thing is calculate the covariance matrix. Calculate covariance matrix. So how to calculate the covariance matrix? There is no need to tell, you know how to calculate the covariance matrix. It's a process in maths. You must have done it for your exams and all. And the last step is calculate the go for eigen decomposition. Eigen decomposition. Here we are calculating the eigenvalues and eigenvectors from covariance vectors, from covariance matrix. So here first we'll scale the data, then we'll calculate the covariance matrix for scale data. We'll calculate the covariance matrix using scale data, and we'll calculate the eigen decomposition using covariance matrix. So when you are going, when you say eigen decomposition, means you are talking about eigenvalues and eigenvector. Basically, you are talking about calculating the eigenvalues or eigenvectors. So it's a three-step process. First, scale the data so that all the features will have equal importance. After that, calculate the covariance matrix for the scale data. Once the covariance matrix is calculated, using that covariance matrix, we are supposed to calculate the eigen decomposition. That is, we are supposed to calculate eigenvalues and eigenvectors. And once eigenvalues and eigenvectors are computed, we can use that thing to select the features. Class, any doubt till this point? So if you have no doubt, then we'll check how this internally works. So these are the steps, and let us go for implementation of these steps. So first thing that I want to do is I want to do standardization. So for standardization using sklearn. For standardization we can use pre-processing module available in sklearn. So from sklearn.pre-processing we can import standard scalar. We can import standard scalar. So standard scalar, by using standard scalar, we can do standardization. So again, steps are similar to PCA only. So standard scalar, how can, so first create object of standard scalar as std. So once the object of standard scalar is created as std, call a method fit. The moment we'll call fit on x underscore train data, it will do all the calculation required for standard scalar. That is, it will calculate the average of all the columns. It will calculate the average of all the columns, and once the average for all the columns is calculated, the next thing is apply that thing. So we'll go for std dot transform, and to this transformation we will pass xtrain, and it will return the transform data. So that is a standard scalar data, scale data that we are going to receive, let's say in x underscore train underscore scaled. So now let us print this x underscore train underscore scaled, and we'll print the dimensionality of the same thing. So let us print the shape and the data itself. I forgot this equal to sign. See, the dimensionality of training data is same. That is, number of rows are 90 and number of columns are 4. But now you can see the data. Some values are positive, some values are negative. And from our explanation, we know that the values which are below average are negative and the values which are above average are positive. And let us do this thing. Let's x underscore train underscore scaled dot mean. That is, we are checking for average. Oh, not caps lock, this thing. So this is the average of entire thing. It's minus and e raised to minus 60 means it is almost zero. Na? It is almost zero. And if we'll do something like this, let's say for I in a range of, there are 4 columns. So 4, and we'll go with x underscore train with all the rows and ith column. So can I do something like this? Yes, so for ith column, so for 0th column, average is almost 0, e raised to minus 16. It's a very small value, na? Again, minus 16, e raised to minus 16, e raised to minus 16, e raised to minus 16 means theoretically the average should be 0, but in practical average is almost 0. Average for every column is almost 0. So yes, it works properly without any problem. So this is standardization. So any doubt till this point in standardization? Okay, no doubt. So the second step is that we are going to calculate the, we want to calculate the covariance matrix. So if we want to calculate the covariance matrix, then the first thing that we should do is take a transformation. We are supposed to take the transformation. So what is covariance matrix? Covariance matrix is what we want to calculate the variance for every column. So if we want to calculate the variance for every column, then our matrix should be transformed, that we should have only 4 rows and n number of columns. Since we want to calculate the covariance matrix for our data, number of rows in a matrix should be equal to number of, the number of rows should be 4 only because there are 4 columns. So we are going to take a transpose of a matrix. So x underscore l dot t. So and now we'll calculate the covariance matrix. So for that, let's say covariance matrix is cov underscore matrix is equal to np dot cov covariance, to which we are going to pass this thing, scaled only, and let us print our covariance matrix. So print cov underscore matrix. So this is a covariance matrix. So what is a covariance matrix? So it's like a covariance between zeroth feature and zeroth feature, zeroth feature and first feature, zeroth feature and second feature, zeroth feature and third feature. So similarly, third feature and zeroth feature, this is same, na? So this value and this value is same. Similarly, covariance between zeroth feature and covariance between, let's say, zeroth feature and second feature, and covariance between second feature and zeroth feature, it is same. Means we can calculate only first half, and second half it's like a replicum. So we know. So this is a covariance. So there are 4 columns in our data, and if we want to calculate the covariance matrix for our features, the first thing that we should do is take a transformation of data. So there will be only 4 rows. There will be only 4 rows, and now calculate the covariance using np.cov method. And now we have a covariance matrix. So this is a covariance matrix. And now since we have a covariance matrix, from covariance matrix we can calculate the eigenvalues. And again, there is a ready-made method available here, that is np.linear algebra, LINALG, linear algebra, to which from this we want to calculate EIG, eigen method, to which we are going to pass covariance matrix. And since now it will return us 2 things. It will return us eigen values along with eigen vectors. It will return 2 things, eigen values and eigen vectors. So if we want to want eigen values, we can simply print eigen values. Did something wrong? I forgot equal to one more time. So these are the eigen values. So first column is having the this is first eigenvalue, second eigenvalue, third eigenvalue, and fourth eigenvalue, or we can say zeroth eigenvalue, first eigenvalue, second eigenvalue, and third eigenvalue. And the vectors which are corresponding to these eigenvalues are, say, print vectors. So this is the vector corresponding to first eigenvalue, vector corresponding to second eigenvalue, vector corresponding to third eigenvalue, and vector corresponding to fourth eigenvalue. So there are 4 vectors corresponding to these 4 eigenvalues. So now we know this. Now I want to calculate the principal components. If I want to calculate the principal components, it is simply a matrix multiplication. It is simply a matrix multiplication. So matrix multiplication of what? Features into vectors. Am I right? So so first column into second column, first column into third column, and so on. So for that we need to do matrix multiplication. And during NumPy we already see how we can do matrix multiplication. X underscore transform, that's a transform feature, is equal to np dot matmul, that is matrix multiplication. The first value is our scaled features. So our scaled features are extend scaled features. So we are going to multiply the scaled features with the vectors, and what we will get is a x underscore transform values. Okay, input operand 1 mismeasured dimension. Did something wrong? X underscore. So there is a mistake from my side. So okay, this is right. Here I should copy it in some other variable, so that x underscore trend will remain unchecked. Mistakenly I changed the value, so this become transformed, no? So that was a mistake. Now yes, it will work properly. So this is the value. But now there is a question. Have I applied it properly? Or I should do something like this? So what is the correct way? Should I multiply with vector dot t, or should I multiply with only vector? Yes, class. So first of all, okay, forget about this vector dot t or vector. Right now, stick to this only. Any doubt till this point? So any doubt in steps? Perform the scalar operation, that is standardization. From after that, take the scale data, transformed it. So and on a transform data, from transform data, calculate the covariance matrix. And once the covariance matrix is calculated, use that matrix to calculate eigenvalues and eigenvectors. And once it is calculated, we can multiply that vectors with trained data. So see, we know the first vector corresponding to first value, second vector corresponding to second eigenvalue, it's corresponding to third eigenvalue, and it's corresponding to fourth eigenvalue. And because of this, while multiplying, we should multiply with transform. Once we will transform it, it will become something like this. So we are supposed to multiply it with transform. Why? Because when it is multiplied with transform, then first value becomes to okay, you can understand it. You know matrix multiplication very well. There is no need to explain it in more detail. But we are supposed to multiply with vector transform, and you will get these values. So this is a complete process of calculating the principal components. But you will say that okay, earlier there were 4 columns. Also again there are 4 columns now. Earlier there were 4 columns. Now also there are 4 columns. So what is the dimensionality reduction? So dimensionality reduction comes over here. This is the eigenvalue for first component, second component, third component, and fourth component. So if you want to select 2 components, then you will select 2 highest eigenvalues. You will select only 2 highest eigenvalues. So there will be only, and you will select, if you will select 2 highest eigenvalues, then you are supposed to select corresponding eigenvectors. So if there are only 2 corresponding eigenvectors, so after multiplication, you will get only 2 columns. After multiplication, you will get only 2 columns. Why? Because we are transforming it over here. Na? Because we are transforming it over here. Sure. Or if I am not transforming it over here, तो भी चलेगा क्या? नहीं चलेगा ना? Yes or no? Yes. That's why we need to go for transformation. So basically, we are supposed to select eigenvectors with we are supposed to select highest eigenvalues and their corresponding eigenvectors. If I want 3 eigenvectors, then I will select highest 3 eigenvalues, highest, second highest, third highest, and their corresponding vectors are these 3 vectors. And now I will go with multiplication. Now I will go with multiplication. If I want only one, then I will select only this thing. I will select for highest eigenvalue and its corresponding eigenvector. I will select this highest eigenvalue and its corresponding eigenvector, and then I can go for it. For example, here after transform, I'll say I want all the rows, but I want only 2 columns. Column number 0 to 2, that is 0 and 1. And now I have only 2 components, highest and second. If I want only 3, then I will go with 3. And I can have 3 components. If I want only 1, colon 1, I'll go with 1. And if I want all 4, I will go with 4. So now you can see implementing this principal component analysis using NumPy is very easy. Am I right? And that's why Python become very popular because of this NumPy and SciPy. They makes the life of machine learning programmers very easy. If you want to do something, we can do. So if I want only 2 most important components, I'll write here only 2, 0th and first. If I want 3 most important components, I'll write 3. I'll get 3, 0th, first and second. And if I'll write 1, if I want only 1, I'll write 1, like this. And if I'll print the shape 90 rows and 1 columns because I want only one important component and so on. So class, any doubt till this point? So no doubt, are you sure? Or it's like it's too confusing? Class, if you have no doubt, then please post so that we'll move to next point. Oh, Aaron is saying it's a bit heavy. Aaron, any particular point where you are having a doubt or you are a bit confused at that point? Yes, Ashwin, it definitely need some mathematical revision, and that's why if you will see, most of the people who are in data science field, either they are from mathematics background, and to be more precise, they are from statistics background, or their maths is very strong, even if they are engineers. So Aaron is saying after covariance. So Aaron, after covariance, we got to covariance matrix. So there is a fixed procedure how you can calculate eigenvalues and eigenvectors from covariance matrix. So that procedure is followed. So now most important component will have a highest eigenvalue and the least important component will have minimum eigenvalue. The most important component will have highest eigenvalue and the least important component will have minimum eigenvalue. So if you want two most important component, means you will go with first two eigenvalues, means we are going with first two eigenvectors. If you want three most important components, means we are going with three highest eigenvalues, that is top three eigenvectors. And that's what we will do over here. We'll multiply our training data, with three vectors only, that is 0, first and second. For that we are going with transformation. So if I'll not take a transformation, तो क्या हो जाएगा? कुछ गड़बड़ होगा क्या? And then it will like all the rows. Okay, sorry. ट्रांसफॉर्म तो करना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो कंपोनेंट्स गलत हो जाएंगे. After transformation, the highest component will become first column, second highest component becomes second column, third highest component becomes third column, and so on. Okay, so let us move to next point, that how we can use it. How we can use it. So let me copy this part. This part where we calculated the important components. We applied the PCA on training data, and from the PCA, and we apply this we train the PCA using training data, and then we apply transformation on training data as well as testing data. We are applying same transformation on training data as well as testing data. And now let us check the efficiency of how it works with logistic regression. For that, again, I'm copy pasting the earlier code only to save on time. Copy and paste. So there is a linear regression, but instead of fitting a model on X10, now I have X10 selected data. That is the data after applying the PCA transformation. And similarly for score, I'll use X test selected. And let us check. Let us start with 4 component and what is the accuracy. So if I'll use 4 components, then the score is 91.67%. It's good. If I'm using 3 components, how score is reduced to 90%. If I'm using 2 components, so for 4 component, score was 91.67%. For 3 components, score was 90%. For 2 components, score is again 91.67%. Let us go for one component and check what is the score. Oh, the for one component score is 90%. Now class, you tell me how many components should I use? 4 or 3 or 2 or 1? With 4 components, I am getting 97% score. With 3 components, we are getting 90% score. With 2 components, 91.67%. And with 1 component, we are getting 90% score. So class, how many components we should use? 4 or 3 or 2 or 1? Okay, so Aaron is saying 4 components we should use. What about others? Okay, so Shantanu is saying 2 components. Sahil is going with 2 components. Ashwini is saying what? As it is, it provides almost similar accuracy. And good observation, Ashwini. Henry is saying 4. See, class. Now, first of all, if there is a choice between 4 and 2, then definitely we should go with 4 components, because with 4 components I am getting 91.767% accuracy, and with 2 components also I am getting 91.67% accuracy. Means what? Even with lesser components I am getting same accuracy. Na? Even with lesser components I am getting same accuracy. Then why should I go with 4 components? Because if I use less number of components, then processing requirement and memory requirement is less. I require less processing power, I require less memory. So that is a good idea, na? It is same thing, na? If there are 2 websites, on one website you are getting, or on one portal you are getting a phone for 15,000, and on another portal you are getting a phone for 13,000. Definitely you will go with second portal, na? Why? You can save on 2,000 rupees, and at the same time you are getting the same effect. You are getting same model. Here it is 2,000 costly, here it is 2,000 less. You will go with second portal. That way. Second thing, okay, it is giving you almost same accuracy, then it is up to the application whether you want, are you okay with even slightly less accuracy. But if that slightly less accuracy is saving you a huge amount of processing power, then yes, you can settle with that slightly less accuracy also. For example, let's say with 200 features you are getting 91.67 accuracy, and with 50 features you are getting 91.2 accuracy. So here imagine the difference between size. 150 less attributes. 150 less attributes means there is a huge saving. There is a huge saving on memory and processing requirement. If we are talking about, there are these many records in training file. There are these many records in training file. We are talking about 1 crore records in training file. If there are 1 crore records in training file, and on every record you are saving 150 attributes, means how much saving? It's a huge saving. And when there is a huge saving, you are okay with slightly less accuracy. But suppose let's say you have only 1000 records. Let's say there are only 1000 records, and this is the difference. Then I will say, okay, there are only 1000 records. There is not much difference in processing power and processing requirement. I'll go with 200 features because it gives us a better accuracy. Okay, so there is a question, but Aaron says that what's the recall and precision score? See, Aaron, recall and precision score you can check and everything, but so Aaron, first thing, are you asking me how to calculate recall and precision score, or you are asking me whether we should consider recall and precision score? What is your actually question? Around yes, you should consider not only accuracy, you should consider recall, you should consider precision, you should consider F value, and there are other factors also. There are a number of factors that you should consider. But what I'm trying to say, along with those factors, processing power and memory requirement is also an important factor. Processing power and memory requirement is also an important factor. Let's say you want to use that model on Raspberry Pi. So if you are going with more number of features, means what? You require more processing power. And do you have that much processing power on Raspberry Pi? No. So can you use it? No, because then it will be very inefficient way. Your model is like working slow mo way, and that is something not acceptable. But then in that case, you need to say, if you want to use my model, then you must have better version. You must have 4 GB RAM and you must have this much processing power and you must have this many cores. And then सामने वाला बोलेगा, sorry, I cannot afford this hardware. It's too costly. So that is also a consideration, that processing power and processing memory available with us. So do you know there are many deep learning models available on your mobile? Do you think those models are as efficient as they are available on system or your PC? No. The model which are available on PC and the model which are available on mobile, they are different. The model which are available on PC are more efficient as compared to models available on your mobile. Am I right, class? You try something. You try some video analysis or computer vision models on your mobile and try their equivalent models on PC, and you will see the results on PC are better as compared to results on mobile. And nowadays what is happening, that people are moving with mobile devices, that okay, model should work on mobile devices also. And the moment you say model should work on mobile devices, तुमको क्या लगता है तुम्हारे पीसी का 4 GB रैम और तुम्हारे मोबाइल का 4 GB रैम सेम होता है क्या? Say your PC is having 6 GB RAM and someone is saying my mobile is having a 6 GB RAM. Are they same or different? Definitely they are different. So they are different means what? Their efficiency is different. PC is faster, mobile is slower. So here you imagine you click a photo and then it is taking 5 seconds to give a effect. Will you like that application? No, you will say, "Arey, kitna slow hai." Take a effect, click, and then it takes time to take a effect. But there is another application which gives a effect within a second. Then you are okay with it, na? Yes. So that way, the model should be efficient. And when you say efficiency, there are many other parameters, and one of the important parameter is time, along with your precision, recall, efficiency, accuracy, F score, and every other thing. Any doubt, class, now? So no doubt. Okay, Ashwini, thank you. So can we do this thing in a for loop also, like writing it for 1, 2, 3, and 4? So there are many ways. So I can simply put this thing in a loop also, something like this. Let's say copy and paste, and I can do something like this, for I in range 1, 5, and then we can do something like this. I want 1 component, 2 component, 3 component, and so on. I can cut and paste this thing outside the for loop. It is not required inside the for loop. Something like this. Okay, now it's okay. Then model dot fit, model dot trend score, and here we can print something like this, str of I, or let's say I comma so with one component. Here I should write I, forgot it. So with one component accuracy is 90%, with two component accuracy is this, with three component this, and four component this, like this. And if we want maximum, then we can say something like this, max is equal to 0, and max underscore component count is equal to, let's say, 0. And here we can compare this thing, like if score is greater than max, if score is greater than max, then we can change max underscore C to I means okay with more with this value I am getting a higher score, so it's like 1. And after this for loop we can print max underscore C. So here we are saying that okay with 4 components I am getting the maximum accuracy. Let's say I am using max score. So if score is greater than max score, this, and I'll write max score is equal to score. So now we know with two components I can get highest accuracy. So optimum components are, so we can say the optimum components are 2. So I can do it using for loop also. There is no need to do it manually. So we are a programmers, we know loops and all. So we can do this thing also. Any doubt class till this point? So no doubt. Good. So let me copy paste this data for your reference in a group. First part, reading the values, then shape and all. After this, segregating the X and Y part. After that, training and testing split. And finally, calculating the principal components using training and testing. And how can you do it in for loop also? So any doubt class till this point? No doubt? Okay, good. So similar to this, but PCA is not the only dimensionality reduction method. PCA is not the only dimensionality reduction method. There are other ways also to reduce the dimensionality, and also these ways like covariance matrix, these ways are related with maths only. So you must have heard about this chi-square. So we can use chi-square method to reduce the dimensionality. Then we can use mutual information or information gain. Or mutual information, this is also one way to reduce the dimensionality. And any other way that you can think about that you can use to reduce the dimensionality? Yes, class. So we can use principal component analysis and all. Okay. So let us go with this chi-square method, information gain method, and so on. So yes, class. Class, is there any doubt till this point? No doubt, class. Okay. Good. So there is another way called as select k based features. कौन सा बोलते हैं हम लोग उसको? Select k based features. And how to select the k based features? So there are a number of ways by using which you can select the k based features. So let's say for selecting the k based features, either you can use chi-square value or mutual information or something like that. So so what is, how to calculate the chi-square? So for that we can use from sklearn dot feature underscore selection okay, we'll import chi-square, or you can simply import this as a fs short form, and now I can calculate the chi-square score between every column and the our trend value, or let's say our x value and y value, that is all the values and our classification label or class label. So we'll use fs dot chi-square, that is chi2, and to this we can pass x trend comma y underscore trend, and the values we will receive over here, that is a chi-square value, chi-square comma p underscore value. And now if I'll print this values, chi-square values and p values, so this is what we will get. So these are the chi-square values for our four components. So for first component, for first column, second column, third column, and fourth column. So basically what chi-square value it gives, it tells whether the two columns are dependent on each other or not, whether these columns are related with each other or not. And now again you can select the column with highest value, or you can select the column with minimum value, and along with that we gives a we get is a p value. So p value is something, it tells that okay how reliable it is, how reliable it is. So we know what is p value. You must have done it in your maths classes, what is p value and what is chi-square value. But yes, we can use chi-square value. It tells us whether the columns are related with each other or not. So the way there is a chi-square, there is also called as mutual information. There is something called as mutual information, and how to calculate the mutual information. Again, there is a method called fs dot mutual underscore info underscore class if, and to this method we can pass this thing x underscore trend and y underscore trend, and after that what we will get is a mutual info, oh sorry, it should be mutual underscore info, and let us print this mutual info. So you can see here key, okay, the amount of mutual information between first column and class level, second column and class level, third column and class level, fourth column and class level. The higher the value is the better. Means what? These two columns are better as compared to these two columns. So means what? Column number 3 and column number 4. These columns are having more mutual information with class label as compared to first two columns. So if I want to select only two attributes, then I should select these two attributes and so on. So this is called as a mutual information. This is called as chi-square. So how can we use this thing? How can we use this thing? So if I want to use this thing, the coding is very simple. So it's like from sklearn dot feature underscore selection import. So we are importing select k based. Here k means what? K is the value how many features we want to select, 2 or 3 or 4, something like that. Then chi-square we are importing, then mutual underscore info underscore class if, this is I am importing. And now let us check how we can do it. Let's say a selector, I want to create object of selector. So selector sel is equal to select k best. So we are creating object of select k best, k should be capital, and here we are specifying that okay which criteria I want. I want to use chi-square criteria for selecting k is equal to, let's say 3 number of features. Okay, let's say 3 number of features, and now we have created the selector. Now let us fit the selector sel dot fit. Remaining process is same, that I want to fit it on x underscore trend, and once it is fitted on x underscore train, I'll apply transformation on train as well as test data. So let's say it will be x underscore train underscore let's say selected is equal to SEL dot transform. Apply transformation on x underscore train data, and we will apply same transform on x underscore test data, and we'll receive it in x underscore test underscore selected. And okay, now let us check the dimensionality of this thing, x underscore test underscore selected dot shape. Ah, there is some mistake. Okay, I forgot k, missing one argument. Y. Okay, for fit I must supply y underscore train also, because that is the value where we will get label values. So 60 rows and 3 columns. So if I pass 2 over here, it will select 2 best features, and if I'll pass 1, it will select 1 best feature, and that's what is called as a select k base. That is, you are selecting the best k number of features using specified criteria. The criteria here can be chi-square, or criteria can be mutual info criteria. Either it can be chi-square criteria, or it can be mutual info classif criteria, depending on what we want. And after this, the remaining process is same. We have selected features. So what we are going to do, we are going to apply logistic regression on it and calculate the score. Okay, let me put the things in line in proper order. So import is at the beginning. After this, create a logistic regression model, create a logistic regression object, train it on xtrain selected, and test it on xtest selected, and so on. Okay, good. And now let us check the score with k is equal to 1. So the score is 90% if I'm using only one component. If we'll go with 2, it's 91.66% score. If I'll go with 3, again 91.66% score. If I'll go with 4, 91.66% score. So with 2 also, 3 also, and 4 also, I'm getting same score. So it is always a good idea that I should go with the mere minimum value, that is 2. But again, as we know, we can put it in a loop for creating the combination. So I can write for I in range, let us say 1, 5. That is, it will start from 1 to 4. So here, so it's selected. There is no need to print the shape in this case. Model score. Then we will have attributes, variables like max underscore score is equal to 0, and let's say max underscore c is equal to also 0. And we are simply doing something like this. If max underscore score is less than score, then we'll change max underscore score to score, and we'll change max underscore c to I. But along with that, there is another combination, and that combination is whether we should go with chi-square or we should go with mutual info. Whether we should go with chi-square or we should go with mutual info. So for that, what we can do is something like this. Let us say here we'll create a list of object. Let's say LST is equal to, the first thing is chi-square, and the second thing is mutual info classif. Copy and paste. And now we can go for nested for loop for, let us say choice in LST. Choice in LST, and here instead of write chi-square, I'm writing CH choice. So so it will test it with chi-square as well as mutual class info. So we will come to know which method is better to select, chi-square or class info. Okay, to make it simplified, I'm deleting this thing. I'm printing the score along with the choice also, along with choice CH. So we can see it's 91, 91, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So every time we are getting a same score, that is 91.66, 91.66 and so on. Okay, just because it is k is equal to 2, I should write I over here. So according to this, it doesn't matter whether I am using chi-square or a mutual info. Both are giving me the same accuracy, that is 91.66. And okay, along with this, I'll print I also. So I'll come to know that how many features. So it says that okay, use two best features, and we can use chi-square method or we can use mutual info method according to our requirement. But we know that mutual information calculation is less computationally expensive as compared to chi-square. So I can go with mutual info classif, that is mutual information also. So this is another way of a dimensionality reduction where I'm going with mutual information. So we are calculating the mutual information between X data and Y label, and we are selecting the attributes with highest mutual information. And how many attributes that we can specify over here? K number of attributes. Class, any doubt? Selecting K based attributes. So for selecting k-based attributes, we can specify other values. We can specify which criteria we want to use, whether we want to go with chi-square or mutual information or any other criteria. Basically, we can specify which criteria we want. End out, class. So we can search this thing sklearn, and we can search this thing on Google also. Then we can visit this sklearn.org, and there you will come to know that okay, first is what scoring function, and what all scoring function that we can use over here. So we can use mutual information, we can use chi-square, we can use F regressor, we can use select percentile, and there are a number of ways. Even we can use this F classif also, which like simply calculates the ANOVA F value between label and features for this. So normally these are three widely used things: chi-square, mutual information, and ANOVA F value. So these are most widely used. But rest all is up to you. If you want to try, you can try this also. So class, is this screen visible to you? skyscalearn.org. Okay. So here you can see what are other options available for you and so on. Any doubt, class, in these topics? So Shubham, you are saying now yes. So do you have a doubt, or it was visible? Ah, thank you, Shubham. So let us go to next topic, and that topic is something like you can select the classifier according to their import. You can basically rank the classifier, or there's something called as recursive feature elimination also. So recursive feature elimination is very important topic. It's like you start with all the features and remove one feature at a time. Recursive feature elimination means what? You can start with all the features and then you delete one feature at a time. Delete one feature at a time for logistic regression. So it's very easy. Okay. let me copy paste this thing first. Copy and paste here. And we'll import recursive feature elimination RFE. So from sklearn dot feature underscore selection, we want to import recursive feature elimination, that is RFE. And now what we are going to do is now we will not use this PCA, so we don't want this PCA. So we'll create, so we don't want this also, so I'm deleting this thing. So we want recursive feature elimination, we want logistic regression, then we'll create a model for logistic regression, and then now we'll create an object of RFE. Let's say selector is equal to RFE, recursive feature elimination. So for which model I want recursive feature elimination, I want it for, let us say, logistic model. So this is the object of logistic regression that we have created now. So we'll say that, okay, I want this recursive feature elimination for logistic regression. How many features we want to select? Let's say n underscore features underscore 2 underscore select. I want to select 2 best features, and in every step delete 1 feature. In every step delete 1 feature means what? Start with all features, that is 4 features. After step 1 delete 1 feature. After step 2 delete 1 feature, and so on. कब तक नहीं करने का ऐसा? So you are supposed to repeat this process till there are only 2 features remaining. And now instead of calling fit on model, we'll call fit on selector. We'll call a fit on selector object by passing x underscore train and y underscore train. And once it is fit, so we can use a score. And the best thing that we should do is, instead of score, we can use something like this. We can print selector dot ranking underscore. So selector dot ranking underscore means what? Now it is saying if you want to select 2 features, then feature number 2 and feature number 2 and feature number 3. These are most important features. If you still want to go for 1 more feature, you can use this feature. If you want to still 1 more feature, you can go with this feature, and so on. So instead of 2, if I'll use 1, it will say this. This is the most important feature. If you want to still go for 1, you can use this feature. If you still want 1 more, you can go for this. And if you want still 1 more, you can go for this, and so on. So basically, this is called as recursive feature elimination method. It is a classifier dependent method. This is a classifier dependent method without any problems. So we are using it for logistic regression. So instead of logistic regression, if we use something else, output might be same or it might be different also. So here we are creating first the object of logistic regression. We are passing that object to RFE model, and then we are specifying how many features you want, and in every step how many features you want to delete, and so on. Similarly, okay, that's it for today. That is dimensionality reduction. So today we learn basic concepts of dimensionality reduction, why we need dimensionality reduction, then how to compute PCA, how PCA works, and then other methods of dimensionality reduction like mutual information gain, or this recursive feature elimination, and so on. Any doubt, class, in these topics? Okay, so Aaron is asking those values corresponds to the column, original columns. Like in this example, third column is the most important. Yes, Aaron, third column is most important. Yes, around the values corresponds to the columns only. Fourth is the rank for first column. Third is the rank for second column. First is the rank for third column, and second is the rank for fourth column, and so on.